Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me again. If you are new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Jasmine Baker. I am an artist. I specialize in photorealism. I also like to draw the occasional pop culture characters, but you are here because you want to learn how to draw, I'm guessing, or you want to learn specifically how to draw this very specific section of Jason Momoa's neck, then you have come to the right place. Welcome to another episode of me drawing one of the most beautiful men we've ever seen. Today, it's kind of going to be like a combination of things. Like I said, is going to be the neck, but also the beard because they're joined together, so you have to draw them together. You actually have to do the neck first because the beard is so dark. That way you'll be able to draw the beard hairs over the neck so it looks a lot better. I'm going to explain that later in the tutorial so it makes a little bit more sense than everything I'm saying doesn't just sound like a bunch of jibber jabber. Before we get started, this video is sponsored by me and my website jasminebakerart.com, where you can purchase fine art prints to spruce up your office or your workspace or whatever space you want to spruce up. There will be a lot more tutorials as I move along in this piece. My website link will be in the description, as well as the Amazon store where I have curated lists of supplies that I highly recommend. Feel free to shop that. I do make a small commission if you purchase anything. I do also want to take a moment to show you guys this really cool thing that I also put on my website. If you are not aware, I do have notebooks on here with some of my designs on them. I chose the outside of the notebook colors based on the artwork. I will add some more. I have the code drawing I want to add. I also want to do a notebook with my lion drawing and probably with the Henry Cavill drawing. I have a couple of other things I want to put available on there. I have coasters, I have refrigerator magnets, I have a sticker bundle for only $8. So feel free to check that out. A link for that will be in the description. I will post discounts about stuff on my website from time to time. So if you are a subscriber or you follow me on Instagram or both, I usually post deals like that in my stories. I also put it in the community tab where I put like all of my posts, all my pictures and stuff like that. Keep an eye out for that. If you have your eye on something, check back every so often because I do post discounts from time to time. I do also want to make you guys aware that I do have a duffel bag with one of my designs on it on my website. It does have mesh side pockets. It has a removable padded shoulder strap. It has padded handles with the hook and loop fasteners for easy carrying. It has a lot of pockets. It zips up and you can carry it. I think it makes a great gym bag, but I will add some more designs for this. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comments. All right, let's get started. So beards are very interesting. They have a lot of components. Beards have a base color, then you have your multiple strands of hairs that you add, making those different colors. On top of that, you have the highlighted hairs. So there is definitely a process when it comes to drawing. I do not like drawing them. There are very, very few drawings where I've drawn facial hair because I don't like it. Face stubble is kind of challenging because you have to color quite a bit of the skin tone first before you do any actual adding of the hair, and the hair that you do add has to be very, very tiny, very short, or use dots. So it's definitely just, I think, every bit as tedious as drawing a full beard. That's why I'm not too crazy about it. This drawing, it looks like it's huge, but this drawing is actually a little bit smaller than the size of my hand. It looks like a really huge drawing, but then when you're coloring stuff like the neck or the eyes or whatever, it's just very, very small, and you realize that you have a very tiny area of workspace. I'm gonna start with how I color the neck. So Aquaman has a neck tattoo. I'm pretty experienced in drawing people that have ink. It's not as challenging as people think it is. It's kind of like doing a drawing that's on top of a drawing, because you're doing a drawing on somebody's skin, but it has to look like it's matched with their skin. So I started out with a base of black and sepia right under the chin. Because he has a beard that's brown, the darkest color next to that would be black. To set his neck back in space, I have to go in with a chunk of black. I can't do a lot of natural black just yet for this part of the drawing because I have to use the natural black to do the tattoo ink. So I need an actual black that will be the darkest point under the chin. And that's what I'm doing here. I believe his tattoo is actually black ink, or it's really dark blue. So I treated it like a black tattoo, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's pretty simple actually. Then drawing people with tattoos might not be such a huge obstacle for you. If it is something that you struggle with, definitely pay attention to what I'm telling you now. All right, once we have the black base down, I went ahead and started with that green color. There's a green color called Dark English Green. It's a very, very deep, I would say a cool toned green, kind of like a forest green. And then I went over that with this red called Crimson Alizarin, used that over top the green. So you see those are very light layers, and then I'm kind of mapping out where the ink is going to be, and then I went over that again with another layer of the green, and that gap there in the middle, that is where his actual skin color is. So that's where I colored black to start the skin tone for that area where there's like shadowing under the chin. And then after I did the black, I used the orange pencil, which is a very bright orange in my opinion, to go over the black. So that's going to warm up the skin a little bit, and then I used the green and then the red again to set that part of the skin back in space. And then you see I'm coloring in different directions just to make sure all of the paper is colored. I need it to be as dark as possible so it looks as realistic as possible once you get all the other colors added in. I started with the actual skin tone first. I used the burnt sienna over top that orange section right there, and I colored that in. After that, I used the sepia because there is a little bit of a shadow right there on the skin, and I colored the burnt sienna in different directions. That way it's more even. And then I started using the burnt sienna to blend into that dark part there, the shadow where I colored. After that, I used the French gray, and then I used burnt sienna 50% to add a little bit of pink right there where the other shadow is on the lower part of that section that I'm coloring. So after that, I colored in horizontal lines, and that color that I used is the brown ochre 10%. That one's like a yellowish white. So that's a little bit of the highlight there on that part of the skin. Went over that again with the burnt sienna, and then I use the X-Acto knife to etch away lines to make the lines in the neck so you can see some of the skin texture. And then I used burnt ochre 50% as the final layer. And of course the pointillism again to add skin texture. And that section way on the far right, that is actually black with red mixed in, and then I used green as the final layer so it looks like a very, very, very green black because it's tattoo ink. I went ahead and started coloring black on that little ink section on the left side of his neck. So I did another layer of black. So I went in with the burnt sienna and then the burnt sienna 50% to start adding dots. So where the skin and the tattooed skin meet, that is what I use those two colors for, to make it look like it's one section of skin. So once I did that, I went in with the burnt sienna again where that tattooed section is. So with that, since that is a pink toned kind of brownish color, I used that green again over that, and then I used that pink color over the green, as well as the brown ochre. I'm sorry, the burnt ochre. The skin is starting to tone down a little bit to like a greenish gray. So in that black section where I was coloring that just pitch black, I started with the X-Acto knife and I started etching in like horizontal lines to match the texture of the non-tattooed skin. In the darker section, I added the brown in those areas where I etched away, and then I started using the pointillism again in the lighter part of the tattooed area. I added white in those lighter sections to bring the skin forward. Burnt sienna once again for those teeny tiny little sections of the neck, and I also used gray, and then the buff titanium and white again. Once again repeating the whole coloring over the skin with the buff titanium, and then going over that with the burnt ochre. After that, I used the burnt sienna to add more skin texture, and I'm just repeating this process over and over until it looks the way that I want it to look. And then added the French gray in to add some highlight to the tattooed skin. So it's not a super complicated thing coloring tattooed skin. This is the way I do it. Other people do it a little bit differently. This is what I find very useful to make it look more closer to what the skin looks like. For the beard, I used a lot of black and a lot of the sepia because those were the darkest colors that I could use. But I had to be really strategic about the way that I used black. With the black, I decided to add some of the sepia in between the black hairs that I was drawing to give it more dimension. With that, I did use some of the green and the red to add a different type of black because I didn't want the regular black just there by itself. It's going to look too harsh on the paper. If you add too much black to a drawing, it kind of starts to look animated, like it's outlined. I always try to avoid that by making a natural black next to the actual black pencil. So I color in the direction of the hair when I'm adding these base layers. I just pretty much try to work in really small sections to avoid getting overwhelmed. And then I use the red and the green a lot to add more dimension to the hair as I was going along. Those kind of add like a natural black / brown, or you can darken the brown with those, use those as a base, and then color over it with sepia. There's a bunch of ways to go about doing that, but this is what I do. It's what I find most useful. I did also start adding the face stubble where the beard is on the sides of the face, because there is a lot of facial hair there actually. This also requires keeping the pencils super sharp. I do find myself sharpening them after just working with the pencil for maybe 10 to 20 seconds, and it has to be sharpened again. With the face stubble, I also use the sepia. I sharpened that, and then I sharpened the dark flesh color. That adds a little bit of depth to the hair instead of just adding pure black hairs to the face, so it looks like it's a little bit more realistic as far as the direction of the hair and the colors of the hair. His beard actually has quite a bit of different colors in it. If you zoom in really close, you will see that. When I was adding the shadow there to the right side of the face where his beard is, I used the French gray to start darkening the skin there, so it looks like the beard is casting a little bit of shadow on the skin. I used the French gray there under the lips with the burnt sienna, and then a couple of the pink shades. That side is still shadowed. For the highlights on the beard, so what I did was I used the X-Acto knife again to etch away the hairs that I wanted to add, and then I kind of alternate between 3 different yellow shades in order to add that on. The 3 shades that I was using are brown ochre 50% and the 10%. So I went in with that goldenrod color, that brown ochre, and then I used that to fill in the spaces that I etched away. And then in other parts, depending on the tone of brown it is, instead of using the yellow shades, I'd use the buff titanium or the white, and then color over those brighter shades with the sepia or the chocolate brown. So there's a lot of dimension to his hair because it's not just one flat black or flat brown color. So he has a few golden shades in his beard and maybe a teeny tiny little bit of gray, but mostly it's the golden / brown colors that I use for that. After that, I started coloring the chin. Where all of that hair is, I darkened that with the black to start. That is a kind of a tricky area. You still have to color quite a bit of the skin color before you add in more beard hair. I don't want the beard to look too cartoonish, so there has to be some skin showing through. I zoomed in a little bit closer so you can see me working with the sepia, also adding in those grayish tone pinks to make the skin look like it's got a shadow on it to kind of match the other side of the face. So that's the beginning stages of that. A lot more of that is just me adding in those yellow tinted whites and then adding the brown over that. It's quite tedious to do that because you want to make sure that you're drawing hairs in different directions, not all in the same direction. Every individual hair is a shape. The beard always looks very weird at first, but yeah, it took me quite a few hours to do this and I'm still not done with it. I think I have maybe another hour or 2 of work to do on the beard and the mouth, like the bottom of the mouth. That's probably all going to take 2 hours. And then the rest of this is mostly just using the different shades of yellow and orangey yellow to get some more depth in the hair, and then just keep going over it with the X-Acto knife, doing the same thing but putting the hair in different directions and then making the hair a little bit lighter each time. Some of those where I am just using the brown pencil, I didn't add white ahead of time, so I just scraped away the black and then added in brown. It still adds depth to the color, it's just very, very subtle. Well, that does it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out my Amazon store if you are looking to restock some of your art supplies. I would recommend checking there if you're a colored pencil artist or you use just regular pencils. I have a ton of stuff that I recommend. Feel free to check that out. There are a lot of deals right now because it's July and Amazon, so a lot of the stuff that I have on my list have discounts and I still earn a commission if you purchase something through my Amazon store. Also, if you're just a watcher of art and not necessarily an artist, please feel free to check out my website if you're interested in my work. You can see more work there, older projects. I have a lot of my older stuff that I've listed there. You can also contact me if you're interested in having a custom drawing done. I do include the time lapses of drawings when I'm working with clients. They usually like to see all of that come together, but yeah, that is included in your order if you do hire me to draw something for you. But that does it for today. Thank you for watching and I will see you next time.